Hey guys, we are back with some more Salt Lake City Lakers franchise mode. And in this one, we have a huge decision to make because we're currently 12-7-4 with this roster. It's kind of mind-blowing, but when you take a look at our goaltenders, it's really not, considering the save percentage that Eric Comrie has at a .934 in 16 games played. This guy went from being one of the worst backups in the entire game from 23 games played last year at an .882 save percentage to 16 games so far this year, and it's only November 30th, and a .934 save percentage. He is on the hot streak of a lifetime right now, and that is why I think we should trade him, because there's no way that is going to be sustainable. There's no way that we're going to be a playoff team this year once he cools off. So at this point, you may as well get back as much as you can for him. Another guy who I'm looking to move out is Vladislav Nemesnikov. He's having a pretty good season as well in the third line, 11 points in 23 games, and he's some pretty cheap depth scoring for any playoff team that would happen to need him. And it just so happens that I was doing some pre-scouting and found the perfect team that may want both of these guys. Now, as a matter of fact, we've seen this exact situation before in Wolfsburg, where we were actually a pretty competitive team in year number 2. Obviously, we had those stars in Panarin and Point, but it still kind of created a false sense of hope that we were going to be a good team long term, and we really weren't, given that we did miss the playoffs, I believe, the year after, and we had a lot of scoring troubles after that. So I'm not about to fall into that trap again. So we are definitely going to be doing this the right way this time. We are going to be trading Comrie and Nemesnikov, and they will be going to the Boston Bruins. And then one thing we're going to be doing in this trade, we are going to be retaining half of Nemesnikov's salary. It gives Boston a little bit more flexibility in their situation. They're almost at the cap limit. Obviously, taking on 2.5 from Nemesnikov, that wouldn't really be ideal for them, given that they're also a champion status team. Gives them a little bit more flexibility with roster moves, and they can potentially make another trade if they want. And all I'm asking for back is their first round pick. Now, obviously, Comrie and Nemesnikov for a first round pick, that seems like it's a little bit of a fleecing, but when you consider that we're retaining half of Nemesnikov's salary, and the fact that Boston is a team that wants to win now, it's a trade that actually makes sense. And also, given that Tuukka Rask is currently their only NHL level goaltender, they have Kyle Kaiser as their backup at a 67 overall. And while he's doing fine right now, again, that might not be sustainable long term. So having Eric Comrie as a backup, who's at an 82 overall, who's on a hot streak, that is a really good backup for Tuukka Rask, who, if he gets injured, you can always go to Comrie. If he goes on a cold streak, you can go to Comrie. It makes sense for Boston to pick up Comrie, especially with their hopes to be a championship team this year. And then at forward, of course, you have Marchand, Pasternak, Bergeron still a 90 overall, and then Sherry, Heinen, DeBrusk, and Bjork. And when you take a look at their forward core, obviously they have these 8 who are 80 overall or above, but then after that they have Frederick at a 79. He's a good prospect, it looks like, at 22 years of age, 79 overall with that medium top 6. Then they have Nordstrom and Nason. So I figure Nemesnikov also gives them that really cheap, good offensive scoring depth. So maybe that's the push they need to make it not only into the playoffs, but to the Stanley Cup. Also, I forgot to mention this when we were on the home screen, but Boston is currently second in the Atlantic Division, which is a very, very tight division right now, as first place in the Atlantic Division currently has 27 points. 8th place has 21. There is a 6-point gap between first and last in the Atlantic Division. You gotta think Boston, especially as a champion status team, would be looking to improve their roster without really taking away from it, and that's exactly what's happening here. So Comrie and Nemesnikov for a first round pick for this year, rejected, sweeten the value just a touch. So we are very, very close. So I think we'll add on one of our prospects who may be a fringe prospect here. I think we'll give them Steklov. He's in high AHL top 2, so it's not that much value. He's 18 at a 54 overall, but there's that high AHL top 2, so it's pretty likely that he'll actually develop into probably a 7th defenseman, I would say. Now, obviously, that's not super impressive, but, you know, it adds a little bit more value to the trade. He's pretty much guaranteed to be at least a replacement level NHL player. Comrie, Nemesnikov, and Steklov for Boston's first proposed trade, and that'll work. So here's our situation with the forward lineups. Only Abdelkader is getting in there because obviously Nemesnikov was traded, so he is just taking Nemesnikov's place. Nothing changed about the defense. And in goal is now Saros and Gregoire, because I wanted to have Schneider down there in the AHL to at least have some respectable goaltending for the AHL team as well. And obviously he's having a pretty good year down there. .923 save percentage in 16 games played. And as for Saros, he's going to have to really carry the load if this team wants to make it anywhere near the playoffs. But again, I don't foresee that happening, especially after trading a very, very hot Eric Comrie and Vladislav Nemesnikov as well, who has some pretty good depth scoring. And then Saros obviously is not having the greatest start to the year, only a .904 save percentage in 8 games. So I think at this point, we will simply sim right through the rest of the regular season, and hopefully I'll see you guys at the end of year number 2. But before we move on, thought I'd update you guys on the draft pick situation. We currently have 2 firsts, our own and Boston's, which we just traded for. We have 4 second round picks, our own Calgary, Colorado, and Dallas's second rounders. We have our own third. We have Columbus's and New Jersey's third rounders. We have 1, 2, 3 fourth rounders. We have a 6th and a 7th. So we are all set to go, it looks like, for the upcoming draft. Hopefully our scouts are doing their jobs. And with that being said, we will simulate up to the end of the regular season. But not before we do one more thing. We have to extend Hayden Fleury because he does want to extend right now. He's an 84 overall. He's having a great season so far with 15 points in 23 games. So I figured, why not? We may as well sign him long term. He's one of our best players. Actually, he is our best player at this point, given that he is our only player who's above an 82 overall. So we will sign him to, I kind of want to sign him to more than 2 years, given he'll be a UFA at that point. We'll try for, we can actually underpay him at this point since we're still in the negotiation stage. We're not exactly at the point where we have to, meet him where he wants with his asking price. We can go for 5.4 here for 4 years. He should end up accepting that. And there it is. So we are here at the trade deadline, and things are going just as expected. We are 19, 38, and 5, the worst team in the NHL by far. But before we continue, we do have a couple more trades to make in this season, as we have a couple of expiring UFAs who do not want to re-sign, specifically on our defensive core, in Jay Bouwmeester and Matt Benning. Now, Jay Bouwmeester, not really a part of our future, obviously, 37 years of age, may as well just move him out for a draft pick since he doesn't want to re-sign. And as for Matt Benning, I think if we were a contending team, he would be a good number 6 defenseman to have, because if you take a look at his stats here, 11 points on the season so far, minus 15, obviously that's not pretty, but we're a bad team, so that's a given there that he's going to have that minus. And he has 95 hits so far this season. He had 120 last season, 70 blocks so far, 116 last season. And his giveaway to takeaway ratio isn't bad at all. It's at a 2-to-1. That's generally what I look for in a defenseman. And he's been able to do that as a top 4 defenseman playing with Hayden Fleury. So he's definitely not bad to hold on to if we were a good team, but we're not. And he doesn't want to re-sign. So once again, we may as well get a draft pick for him. And obviously, he has that chemistry with Hayden Fleury as well. However, a guy who also has chemistry with Hayden Fleury is Dominic Mason, so we will just be playing Mason with Fleury instead of Benning, as we do need to get as many draft picks as possible. So we are going to be trading Bouwmeester and Benning here to a couple of teams in the Metropolitan Division who are battling it out currently, not for first place, but who may potentially be battling it out in the playoffs at some point in the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New Jersey Devils. Pittsburgh, they are far ahead in first with 86 points, and the New Jersey Devils are in third with 72. So obviously, both of them look to be in the playoffs in the Metropolitan Division, and they look to retain their playoff positions. So adding depth on their defensive cores will definitely help that out. So first we'll be trading to the New Jersey Devils, as they do have a little bit more of a need to add to their depth on defense, as they do have 5 defensemen over an 80 overall, but number 6 defenseman in Mirko Mueller at a 78, not exactly the greatest. So what we will be getting from them is just simply a 3rd round pick for next year, and in return, they will be getting the veteran Jay Bouwmeester as we add him to the trade here. And that is all we will be sending to New Jersey, and that is all we will be receiving. So, Bouwmeester for a 2022 third-round pick from the New Jersey Devils, trade accepted. And obviously, that means Matt Benning is going to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I think we could get a little bit more out of Benning from Pittsburgh than we did from New Jersey for Bouwmeester. Number one, because Benning is a lot younger. And number two, because we just traded the New Jersey Devils Jay Bouwmeester, so that may add a little bit extra pressure on Pittsburgh to improve their defensive core as well. So we're going to try for a 2022 second-round pick for Matt Benning. Proposed trade, that'll work. And we are unfortunately going to have to call up Sautner here, but we don't really have too many other options there. So those are our 6 defensemen that we're rolling for the rest of the season, and it is more than likely going to be a tire fire of a post-trade deadline for us. But you know what? At least we got a couple of draft picks out of a couple of our UFAs that we're not going to re-sign anyway. And you know what? Bouwmeester may actually end up retiring at the end of this season. So really, those 2 trades were just good hockey trades, you know? We get a couple of picks as a bad team. The New Jersey Devils and the Pittsburgh Penguins both get a little bit of a boost to their defensive cores, and especially for the playoffs, depth on defense is a good thing to have. So here we are at the end of the regular season. We finished with a record of 26, 47, and 9, by far the worst team in the NHL. As we check out the player stats here, once again leading our team in points is Ondrej Kase with 54 points on the season, Anthony Cirelli with 50, Bjorkstrand with 46, Simmons with 43, Zajac with 42, Burakovsky and Hedl with 40. So Hedl had a pretty good year. I believe that is a career high for him. Yes, indeed it is. Last year he had 32. This year has a lower plus minus, but more points. So I will take that out of him. He had a pretty good takeaway to giveaway ratio. He had 47 hits on the season. He needs to improve on faceoffs, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt. And once we get a much better team, hopefully he'll end up being a better defensive player. Forsbacka Karlsson with 25 goals. Hayden Fleury with 36 points. So he didn't grow in overall at all over the course of the season, but he did get 10 more points than last season, which is pretty impressive given he had Dominic Mason as a partner for part of the year, and as well as Matt Benning. He was able to lay the body 131 times. His giveaway to takeaway ratio is actually pretty impressive as a defenseman, so Hayden Fleury is definitely someone who we should keep on our roster for a long time. CC with 25 points, Gagne with 24, Benning with 24, Abdelkader with 22, Lawton with 19, Mason with 16, Alzner with 9, Braun with 8, Sautner with 3 in 20 games. And for goaltenders, Saros with an .892 save percentage in 49 games, Gregoire with a .884 in 18 games, and Schneider actually had to get in there for a few games and only got 1 win, even with a .904 save percentage. So, yeah, this is a rough season for sure, but it was all to get, at the very least, the 4th overall pick. And the next thing that we need to do, extend Philip Hedl right now. So he wants 2 years for $2.3 million. That he'll still be an RFA after 2 years. I think that sounds reasonable for him. 2.25 we'll try for. And I also want to try to extend Ondrej Kase. He's been pretty good for us over the past 2 years. He's been our leading scorer in each of the past 2 years, obviously, with 53 points and 54 this year. I don't know if he'll be part of our long-term future, but I could definitely see him being on the roster for the next couple of years. So we will give him an offer. 2 years at the salary doesn't really matter too much, given that we're not really going to be at the cap ceiling for quite a while. So we'll give him 4.8 for 2 years. And one more thing that we will do, we will check out the progress reports. Let's see who grew. So you have Cirelli with a bunch of statistical growth. He got +5s in shot blocking and stick checking, and +5s in aggressiveness, body checking, and strength. Let's see who else is notable. Burakovsky, he had some negative growth actually from statistical growth. Lawton also had some negative growth. Braun had negative natural growth. Gagne, I'd imagine, is negative. Well, actually, he had a little bit of a mix of statistical growth from, I guess, a good statistical season, but also some natural regression. Hedl, he only had +2 to faceoffs, and that is about it from him. That's unfortunate, but hopefully we'll see a bit of a jump from him in the offseason. Hayden Fleury did not have any kind of growth, and neither did anyone else down here. And in the system, you have Mishik, who grew by 24. Let's take a look at his natural growth. He had a +4 to offensive awareness, +4 to defensive awareness, and a bunch of great all-around growth, really. Yuri Anisimov as well, 63 overall now. He has 11 assists and 1 goal in 47 games played in the KHL, I'm guessing. And he had +4 to everything in puck skills, +3 to offensive awareness, +1 to all of his shots, +3 to defensive awareness, +3 to endurance, +1 to just about everything other than fighting skill in the physical category. So he's seeing some pretty good growth. Noel Gunler, +18, +4 to everything in the puck skills, +4 to discipline, +2 to offensive awareness, +2 or 3 to everything in the shot category, +5 to shot blocking and stick checking, +5 to aggressiveness, body checking, and strength. He's seeing some good growth as well. Bednar, he's seeing some pretty good growth. He didn't have the greatest statistical year, of course, with an .898 save percentage in 23 games. However, he is getting some good natural growth in there, so that's all I can really ask for. Jacob Vasunov also seeing some pretty good growth. Most of our prospects really seeing some good growth here. Now, Byfield, unfortunately, did not have any kind of growth during the year. However, he did have what looks to be a career year with 90 points in Sudbury this past year in 56 games, 40 goals, 50 assists. He looks like he could potentially be ready for the NHL by next year. There's also Ray Downey, who grew by 14, who's that low elite. Paris Hagen, unfortunately, did not grow at all either, but hopefully we'll see him grow in the offseason. There's Kasha, and there's Hedel. And the playoffs are complete, and the Stanley Cup champions are the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Iowa Wild are the Calder Cup champions. And now the awards. Toronto obviously wins the Stanley Cup. Montreal wins the President's Trophy. Dallas wins the Clarence S. Campbell Bowl. And Toronto obviously with the Prince of Wales. So it was Toronto versus Dallas in the final this year. The Art Ross goes to Nathan MacKinnon. The Hart also goes to Nathan MacKinnon. The Norris Trophy goes to Drew Doughty. The Lady Byng goes to Nathan MacKinnon. The Calder goes to Alexis Lafreniere on Florida. The Conn Smythe goes to John Tavares. The Vezina goes to Carey Price. The Jennings goes to Price as well. The Bill Masterton goes to Jay Bouwmeester for a second year in a row. The Jack Adams goes to Genoway for a second year in a row on the LA Kings. And the Selke goes to Kopitar. The Ted Lindsay Award goes to Nathan MacKinnon. And the Maurice Richard, of course, Nathan MacKinnon. So MacKinnon took home a lot of hardware this year, but not the Stanley Cup, unfortunately, for him. All right, come on, draft lottery. Treat us well. And we fall back to 4. All right, well, that was kind of expected. But the good news is that defenseman, Peyton Dundas, I believe his name was, is at number 4. And we desperately need another elite defenseman in our prospect pool. So if we could get him, that would be great. And it looks like he will be going at number 4. So ideally, Dundas is our guy. And obviously, you can't go wrong with Trevor Wong either. And yes, I've been waiting to make that pun. But I think we need to really get Peyton Dundas here. He is a two-way defenseman. I love his personality. He is a similar style to Brent Burns. He's NHL ready right now. As his only weakness right now is teammate utilization, but his strengths are shutdown ability, heavy slap shot, and mobility. He's 6'3". He looks like you could put him on the power play eventually. I'm not going to put him on the power play right away. I think we got to take Peyton Dundas. There's no debating it here. So we may as well just go into the draft in this video. And the player retirements. Joe Thornton retires on the Devils with 1,588 career points in 1,707 games played. Great career for him. Jussi Jokinen also retires. Nathan Horton, Ryan Callahan, Ron Hainsey, Steve Bernier. All right, so not too many retirements this year, but Joe Thornton is definitely a notable there. And in goal, you have Toivonen. Okay, so not too many goalie retirements either. And of course, now Joe Thornton is also now a coach for the New Jersey Devils. So good to see him continuing his career in the NHL even after his playing days. And it's time for the draft interviews. We already pretty much know that we're taking Dundas. The only thing that I could think to ask him about would be his personality. But even that's at a 3-bar scouting right now. So I don't really feel like wasting an entire interview just to ask Dundas about his personality. I think it's pretty clear that we're taking him. So we will just interview somebody else who is a scout recommendation. First, we will interview Zach Dean. He's supposed to go 20th overall according to Central Scouting, and it looks like we have a later first-round pick. So Zach Dean is a playmaker. He's got great skating, and he is 3 years away from the NHL. Now we will interview J.R. Avon. He is a two-way forward, his personality type is professional, and he has a strength of skating. And lastly, we will interview Jeremy McLeod. He has a passionate personality type, his strength is skating, and he is 4 years away from the NHL. So there you go, there are the draft interviews, and as you can see, we have a lot of draft picks in the upcoming draft. We have, what is it, 6? We have 9 picks alone in the first 3 rounds, and then of course you have a couple of 4th rounders there, 12, 13, 14. We have 14 picks in this year's draft. So San Jose will be picking first, and then Ottawa, and then Tampa, and then ourselves, of course. So we will sim this first pick because it's pretty clear that we're not getting that first pick. Aatu Räty goes to the San Jose Sharks as that high elite potential, and the Ottawa Senators will take Caden Coop. He's an 83 overall already, but that medium elite, so the high elite must be why Aatu Räty went first. But Caden Coop is definitely more NHL ready. As a matter of fact, he is more ready for the top 6. He's second line forward already. And Tampa actually wants to trade their 3rd overall pick. Now, what would we need to trade for that? Probably along the lines of Fleury, Kasha, maybe Hedel. I don't want to do that. I don't want to trade Fleury or Kasha. I don't want to trade Hedel either. I'd be willing to trade Cirelli, but I'm not trading Byfield. I'm not trading Anisimov. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it. I mean, unless there's someone who's already NHL ready, which there actually probably is. There's Kari Salonen. He actually, he's got the A+, Huh. He actually might be in his mid-80s. He has no weaknesses, strengths of puck protection, offensive creativity, and playmaking ability, and he's a two-way forward. He had 9 goals and 14 assists in 16 games played in Liga last year. Ooh. That's tempting. You know what? Just so we can find a trade quickly, let's ask Tampa what they would want for their first. They would want Fleury, Bjorkstrand, and a 3rd. I'd be okay with trading Bjorkstrand, just not Fleury. I'm going to see if we can get this deal done without Fleury here. I'd give you Boston's first. So we're moving up from 22 to 3. So Bjorkstrand, a 3rd, and Boston's first. Will that work? Rejected. Okay. They made the pick. We ran out of time. All right, whatever. Salonen goes to the Tampa Bay Lightning, so we miss out on that 81 overall two-way forward there. I was trying to make the pick as quickly as I could, but we were just a little too late on pulling the trigger on a trade. So I think it's pretty clear here that we will be taking Peyton Dundas. I mean, Trevor Wong, once again, he's pretty good as well, but we definitely need some help on the back end. So Peyton Dundas, welcome to Salt Lake City. And he is a 77 overall, so he is about 1 year away from the NHL, I would say. The game lied a little bit there to us, saying that he's NHL ready. He is definitely very close to the NHL nonetheless. It looks like the next pick we'll be able to trade for is Edmonton's pick at number 8. There is a medium elite, I believe, at that point. Yeah, Sholnishkin. And he is also NHL ready. He's a defensive defenseman, it looks like. Ooh, that could be perfect going alongside of not only Dundas, but that other Russian defenseman that we have in Anisimov. So if we get Anisimov, Dundas, and Solnishkin, we'd be set on defense. But let's let the Rangers pick here. They will take Trevor Wong, of course. San Jose will take Sillinger. Now, I want to have if we do want to trade for Edmonton's pick, I want to have a package ready before the Anaheim Ducks pick. So they would want either Kasha and Forsbacka Karlsson or Hayden Fleury. Well, I'm not giving up Fleury. I'd be willing to give up Kasha. I don't know about Forsbacka Karlsson. He grew up to an 80 and he had 25 goals this year, so he may very well grow even more. I give him a couple of 3rds and Bjorkstrand, because Bjorkstrand hasn't actually really been that good. I mean, he's decent, obviously, for being on our team, but he doesn't really fit into our scheme too much. And I don't really see him as a part of our future too much. So let's see if they will take 2 3rds and Bjorkstrand for their first round pick. No, too far off. There's also Carson Lambos, who is available at 13. However, he is 3 years away from the NHL compared to Solnishkin, who is pretty much NHL ready. So we don't have to trade for Edmonton's pick because Columbus actually does want to trade their pick at number 10 as well. So we'll see what Columbus would want for their pick. They would want Hedel and 2 3rds. I'd give them the 2 3rds, not Hedel. So we'll try to figure this deal out without Hedel. give them something else they potentially want. Maybe I give them Boston's first here. A third, and Boston's first for Columbus's 10th overall pick. Proposed trade, rejected. We'll try it with Mercer in there, but if this doesn't go through, then I don't think we're going to do this trade. Proposed trade accepted. There you go. All right, so let's hope now that Solnishkin, or whatever his name was, makes it to pick number 10. Hopefully he does. Some pick from the Edmonton Oilers. Anderson is a medium elite defenseman. Now Minnesota, hopefully they take the other guy. Oh, they took Solnishkin. No. I should have made the trade earlier. Or I should have made the trade with Edmonton. Rats. All right. Well, at least there's a high top 6 there. And Joshua Waugh. There's also Carson Lambos. Oh, I should have waited. But you know what? I do like Carson Lambos. I like his personality. He doesn't have a great passing ability, unfortunately, so I think that's going to be his greatest struggle into getting into the NHL. But still, nonetheless, I think he'll be a pretty good defenseman, and even if he's not, that's some pretty good trade value right there in that medium elite. But then again, there's also the high top 6 with Joshua Waugh. He's only 2 years away from the NHL, like JVR. He has no weaknesses, a strengths, a hard wrist shot, puck protection, and one-on-one skill. He had 35 assists, 28 goals last season. Him and Byfield down the middle of the future wouldn't be a bad thing for sure. Then again, Carson Lambos. Do we really need another medium elite defenseman? I mean, you can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong either way here. So actually, you know what? Before we run out of time, I'm going to call a timeout here just to make sure. Yeah, you know what? The more I start to look at Joshua Waugh, the more I'm starting to like him over Carson Lambos because he has that A- for physicality as a playmaker, and one of his strengths is puck protection, so that tells me he's going to be a really, really good playmaker. I think we could use a guy like him. Welcome to the Salt Lake City Lakers. He's a 71 overall, but that high top 6, he should end up growing pretty fast, and even if he doesn't grow that fast, he will almost definitely end up being around an 84 or an 85 when he peaks, or maybe even higher. So that should end up being a pretty good pick. Now, Colorado does want to trade their pick. I'm not going to make the same mistake that I did last time. And Pinelli does go to the Kings. If we could, by chance, get that Colorado pick and pick up the defenseman, the Carson Lambos, then we should be all set for prospects pretty much, at least for right now in this draft. I'd be willing to give up Cirelli here because he doesn't really fit into our scheme. And obviously, now that we have Jeremy Waugh, we have Quentin Byfield, and we have Filipino, who are all above Cirelli on the depth chart, while Cirelli is above Byfield and Waugh currently. But the expectation is that Byfield and Waugh will eventually pass Cirelli, and he's signed for 3 years at $3.2 million. Not that we really need to worry about salary cap at the moment, and this should be the last trade that we make during this draft because I really see no other reason to make another trade. I'd be willing to trade Paris Hagen here. He's already 20, is only 69 overall. So we'll try trading Cirelli and Paris Hagen for Colorado's first round pick. Proposed trade. That'll work. So we just traded our first ever draft pick for an upgrade, potential upgrade on defense in Carson Lambos. Obviously, he was more NHL ready than Lambos is, but trying to get as many elite prospects as we can on board here. And that was a pretty realistic trade as well, given Colorado wanted to trade their pick. And they got a pretty good deal out of it in Cirelli and Paris Hagen. So now we will take Carson Lambos with this pick. Welcome to Salt Lake City. He is a 65 overall, so he wasn't even that far behind Paris Hagen, and he's 2 years younger. So he should end up having a pretty good development. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit, but once he's ready, he should be worth it. So obviously, we couldn't get Salonen. That's a bit of a disappointment. But we did get 3 very good prospects in Dundas, Waugh, and Lambos. So we will sim right up to pick number 33. And there should still be a pretty good player available at that point anyway. So there's Stankoven, there's Gunther, there's Repik. Taking a look at their personalities. Stankoven keeps his emotions in check and is very loyal, but can lack the drive to win. I don't like that. Dylan Gunther is a very passionate person and can get emotional at times, but he is driven to win. He is 2 years away from the NHL and that has that medium top 6 potential. His teammate utilization is his weakness, but he is all around pretty solid. He's got the B's for shooting, puck skills, senses, and skating, a B- for physicality, and a C- for defense. And his strengths are skating, elite speed, and a hard wrist shot. So definitely more of a sniper, it appears, and yes, indeed. He is also a gem, 6'3", 183 pounds at 18 years of age, a right-handed shot, so a little bit of a one-timer action going on there, though it looks like he gets more assists than goals. We'll keep looking here. Wojtek Repik, he's got B's and C's all around. I think I like Gunther a little bit better. Yeah, I like Gunther better than Repik. I don't think there's any other guys down here. Maybe Sundstrom? 3 years away from the NHL, low elite, 6'2". I do like Sundstrom, but we can take him with our next pick, because you see all these scout recommendations right here. That's not this pick, because Stankoven is the scout recommendation for this pick, but we're not going to be taking him. We will instead, it looks like, here, take Dylan Gunther. Welcome to the Salt Lake City Lakers. He's a 68 overall, medium top 6 potential. Pretty good. So our next pick, if I'm not mistaken, should be very soon. Yeah, it is at number 10 in this round, so we will hope that our guy is not taken by that point. And it looks like he is still available. Yes, indeed. Matthias Sundstrom, the low elite two-way forward. We could also take Nicholas. He's 2 years away from the NHL. Hornquist is 3 years away from the NHL. Sundstrom 3 years away from the NHL as well. But I do like that low elite. I also like the fact that he is marked as a gem. So we will take Matthias Sundstrom here with this pick. Welcome to Salt Lake City. He is a 64 overall, and we actually have another pick here. So for me here, it is between Magnus Nicholas, the top 4 defenseman. He's a defensive defenseman like Marc-Edouard Vlasic, no personality, and he is 2 years away from the NHL. Oscar Hornquist, he is 3 years away from the NHL like Matthias Ekholm, and he is very driven to win. There's Jyrki Pirala. He is 3 years away from the NHL, and he is driven to win. And Derek Beach, he is 3 years away from the NHL like Matthias Ekholm, and he has a very well-rounded personality. Now, we do need a right-handed defenseman because we have a lot of left-handed defensive prospects, so I think that narrows it down to either Nicholas or Pirala, and they're both defensive defensemen. However, Nicholas is a little bit closer to the NHL, so we will be taking Magnus Nicholas with this pick. Welcome to Salt Lake City. He is 69 overall. And on to the 63rd pick in the draft. Let's see who else is available at this point. There was a medium elite goaltender here at some point. I believe he was taken. It looks like he was taken. That's unfortunate. Yep, all the medium elites are gone. All the low elites are gone. All the top 4 defensemen are taken. All the top 6 forwards are taken. There's a medium starter in Ayersberg who's supposed to go soon, but that is about it, unfortunately. So I do like his personality, but he is 5 years away from the NHL, potentially even more. So that tells me he's like a 48 or maybe a 50 overall at maximum. So we may as well just take a stab at one of these guys. Either Mianskum, Suonen, or maybe Lindback. Lindback looks like he's 3 years away from the NHL, plays like Matthias Ekholm. He's a right-handed defenseman as well. We do need right-handed defensemen. He's 6'4", looks like a defensive defenseman. Ulf Lindback, welcome to Salt Lake City. He is a medium top 6, that's unfortunate. 62 overall. Looks like he's a few years away from the NHL. Now I guess we'll try for Jyrki Suonen. Also a medium top 6. You hate to see it. Still in the 3rd round here. We may as well just take Ayersberg at this point because we've been striking out on a couple of defensemen here. And there's really not much in terms of potential that we can see. So we may as well just take Magnus Ayersberg. Welcome to Salt Lake City. And he is, of course, a 48 overall, but the medium starter, so good potential. Yeah, there's really nothing here. Let's try for Kalle Backman. He's got a good personality from what we can see. Looks like he's 4 years away from the NHL, and he has no similar playing style, but we'll take him anyway. He is, of course, medium top 6. I think we're just going to have to go with the scout recommendations at this point. So I think here we'll take Tristan Lennox. He's got a pretty promising save percentage, a 903 save percentage in 65 games played in the OHL. So we'll take a stab at him. Medium starter. And a 59 overall, so it looks like he's closer to the NHL than that other goalie prospect that we took. And he's got the same potential, so we'll see what he becomes. And now we will take Charles Reed. He's got 12 goals and 27 assists in the US West. Obviously, that's not the most impressive league, but he is 6'2", and he is a scout recommendation, so we will take him. The bottom 6 forward, you hate to see it. There's Rohan Bowman, who is a 2-bar medium elite, and at this point, why not? There you go. He is a medium elite, but only a 49 overall, so he's going to take a while to get better, but he does have that medium elite, so I believe that is our first medium elite goaltender prospect, so we got lucky with him for sure. Let's take Tuomo Matanen. Welcome to Salt Lake City is a low 7th defenseman. That's unfortunate. And into the 7th round now. This should be our last pick. You know what? Let's take Tommy Eddy, otherwise known as Teddy. Let's go, Teddy. Welcome to Salt Lake City. He is unfortunately a medium bottom 6, but that is alright. It's an awesome name. So welcome to Salt Lake City. Dundas, Waugh, Lambos, Gunther, Sundstrom, Nicholas, Lindback, Suonen, Erisberg, Backman, Lennox, Reed, Bowman, Matanen, and Teddy. So that'll be about it for this one. This episode's already been extremely long, at least on my recording file it has been, so I will end things off here. And the next one, we will go through the offseason and hopefully make our way into year number 3. You, of course, have Hayden Fleury, who's an 84 and is still growing. Hedel is up to an 83 now at a medium top 6 potential. You have Dundas, you have Byfield, you have Waugh, you have Nicholas, Gunther, Anisimov, Gunler, Lambos, Vasunov, Sundstrom, Downey. We have a lot of good prospects now. You have 4 medium elites, 2 low elites, the high top 6 in Waugh. Yeah, it's a lot of really good prospects in our system now. So I think we could start building, at least to be a little bit more competitive. Obviously, I'm not expecting us to make the playoffs next year, but we should at the very least start building to become respectable, you know? So I'll leave you guys off there. Let me know what we should do going into next season, and I'll see you guys in the next one.